shining a light on the women creating an impact, leading organizations, and mission-focused strategic programs across the federal technology and consulting community. This is Impact. I am being joined today by Lori Smith, the CEO of Acu-Elligent. Lori, thank you for hopping on with me today.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm excited to be here.
Tell me a little bit about Acu-Elligent and what you guys do.
Acu-Elligent, we are a government contracting consultant and advisory firm. And what my goal is to do is help all small businesses, women, veterans, and other minority-owned small businesses really learn how to unlock, government opportunities the right way. And I do that through education. I am a stickler for doing it right. I am a stickler for, being consistent. And I just believe that if I teach you the rules of engagements, now you can leverage that information and go along and just make wonderful things happen for you in the government contracting space.
So let's talk about how you got there. Tell me about your professional journey and how you've positively influenced in leadership style.
Well, I got here as a result, transitioning from my military career, right, and retired from the Air Force in 2008. Went to do federal service and retired from federal government in 2020. But my journey of getting here, facilitated my growth and continued movement, from a professional perspective. I learned the importance of resilience, empathy, and active listening. Resilience taught me how to, move forward, keep moving, regardless of what challenges you face. And when you do that as a leader, that inspires your team members and any other colleagues to do the same. Empathy allows me to connect with people and get to know them from their perspective. And so as a leader as well, when you have staff members, our job and our role is to develop them to be our replacements. The chair is not ours to keep for a lifetime. And so when you bring empathy into the workplace, it's not being mushy. It's about really connecting with those people that are around you. And when you show that truth and that connection and show that you're authentic and real in that, that really inspires them to even work harder for you, regardless of what the working conditions are, how long you have to work or how hard the job is. They will work because they know that you care about them. And then active listening, actually, over time, I'm grateful for being trained by Bridgeway Rehabilitative Center in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. I was trained as a crisis line volunteer through their program, and it really helped me develop my skills in active listening. So when you're able to listen actively, now you're able to make more informed decisions. And so when I fully understand what is happening around me, not only just what the mission requires, but how is it going to impact the people that are around me, how it impact the end user and the customer that ultimately is going to experience it. When I'm able to clearly understand that, active listening helps me make those informed decisions. So by having to be, again, resilient, having empathy, as well as, just listening to what is being communicated around me, what that does, it just helped me create a more inclusive, adapted, and supported leadership style and a more homogeneous workspace.
That, I think, is a very refreshing leadership style, too, because not a lot of leaders are empathetic and are active listeners. They just are directors. And that's...
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about the Air Force. What was it like in the Air Force? What did you do?
Oh my God, I love my time in the Air Force. I did the reserves for 4 years prior to going active duty, right? While on active duty, because of that, for the Air Force Reserve, you have to stay in the career field you sign up for when you go active. So I was a logistics specialist in my Air Force career early on, and then I transitioned around 1999 into contracting. But I loved it. I learned the rules of engagements, right? I love reading. What's the policy? What's the rules? So as a first turn airman, I knew I could be stateside for 12 months, go overseas for 12 months, come back stateside. And I took advantage of that. So much so that, my last half of my career was actually spent abroad, but I loved it. My son got an opportunity to experience the culture of other countries, which makes him a very much more eclectic person. I think that's a great word to describe him, but I absolutely loved it. I won't trade it for anything. Any journey that you take is going to be predicated upon the level of effort you put behind the journey. And so once you put your all into your endeavors, you're going to realize, the benefit that you desire. Not going to say it's going to be perfect or not a little lumpy, But at the end of the day, I love my Air Force career. I would not change it for anything.
What was your favorite place you were stationed?
Oh my God, that is so competitive. Okay, my favorite place, believe it or not, and it's going to be a toss up, but I actually enjoyed Honduras.
Really?
And I think I enjoyed Honduras because Honduras was my first time being in a place where I could actually take advantage of the area around me. So I got to experience so much, being in the country, a part of the base operation maintenance contract, MWR, morale, welfare, and recreation. That was part of the contract, right? So all you needed was 5 friends for a trip. You get 5 friends and they'll take you to the destination, right? so,
That's
so
cool.
travel, yeah, so travel
Yeah.
was provided. So I was able to go and visit Roatan, which is fabulous, by the way, the best place to go to sleep in a hammock. The sunset really sun rises and set right there at your fingertips. Got to go to Carnival in La Ceiba. Not a crowd person, so to speak, but enjoyed the experience. But the culture, being able to experience the culture and the toss up with that, or the tie, and it may edge it out a bit, is actually my time in Turkey. Because what I appreciated about Turkey was once I got there, you have this epiphany. And it's like, oh man, the areas that they talk about in the Bible are right here. So when you got to experience that history and that culture and do those things and tours there and just see how exquisite the landscape was, I really enjoyed those tours. And of course, at both of them, enjoyed the food because I love eating.
That's one of my favorite things about traveling is always trying the local foods.
Yes,
Awesome.
absolutely.
Let's talk a little bit about mentorship, what role that's played in your career. Can you share some specific instances where a mentor's guidance significantly impacted your leadership approach?
When we talk about mentorship, it really has been a cornerstone of my career, right? And the one thing a mentor helped me understand, and I think we collectively learned to understand it together, was the benefit and the beauty of being vulnerable as a leader. So I had to learn about vulnerability as well as everyone else through a traumatic event. So while I was stationed at Eglin Air Force Base, I was in essence almost stalked. The whole 4 years I was there, I was stalked because I was resilient, because I was strong, because I was Lori, I was the go-getter, I was, Henrietta Super Troop. I was all of these things. No one, to include myself, could really address or understand or knew how to treat or even talk to me about being stalked, because in their head they couldn't fathom it.
Right.
In their head everyone made the assumption, oh, Lori got it, oh, she can handle it. So my treatment, for lack of a better word, really missed the mark. And we did not realize that, hey, I needed help too, until I lost my hair, because of stress-induced alopecia. Internalizing the stalking, internalizing being the image of that everyone, wanted me to be, I lost my hair. So it was a teachable moment for a traumatic event. But I learned that as a leader and through mentorship, we all collectively learned together the value of being vulnerable. And because I learned it, it didn't mean that I went to work crying every day every time something happened. But it meant that, hey, when you got to that place and you really just needed to raise a hand and just say, look here, I need help, it is okay to do that. And for me, again, full circle in 2018, as my mother transitioned, having created an environment where I respected the people that worked for me. I was empathetic to who they were, what their needs were, make sure that they not only had their personal needs, but professional needs met. Because of that, when I needed that support, when I needed to say, guys, I need to go tend to this, because my mom was my girl, right? Those managers stood up and they, protected me because they knew Miss Lori is not going to not do. So that vulnerability, being able to let them know, hey, guys, I'm going to need you. And man, they came through in spades. I will forever be grateful to that group of people for a lifetime, because they were invaluable. They were the strength I needed during a vulnerable moment. And by being vulnerable, you don't lose standing in that. People admire the fact that you are able to be vulnerable. So when we talk about vulnerability, we learn to say, hey, okay, I was wrong. And that's how I lived my career. So that was one of the pivotal things that a mentor helped me learn. And the beauty of it was a teachable moment for all of us, because there are people that we live with, we work with, we see all the time. We look at them as the epitome of strength, never realizing, hey, they may need help. And so when they do need help, we don't internalize it as them asking, because in our head, well, you can handle anything. So I think that was one of the best lessons that any mentor that I had taught me. But the crazy part was, it was a lesson at my expense, so to speak. But I'm grateful for it, because it was that was a great moment for all of us. And so by demonstrating that it's okay to need help, it helps us acknowledge our weaknesses. And I found that it just empowered me and my team just to be more innovative and creative.
As a woman, being vulnerable and trying to be a leader could sometimes also be looked at as a negative, like you're being a weak woman too.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. We have all of those things that play around in our heads, because people have put all these stereotypes on us. It's like, you got to be all of this and that. And then when you're not, oh, well, something's wrong with you. Man, I'm stronger than you on any day of the week. Yeah, come on, give me a break, right? But I was just grateful that my mentor at that time, we were able to stop and just take that time in that moment, because it was him teaching me and helping me recognize, hey, Lori, it's okay to be vulnerable, because again, we got this mindset, oh, you the pillar of strength, and so I think that was the best lesson that a mentor has ever helped me learn, is the fact that it's okay to be vulnerable. So I'm appreciative of that.
In your opinion, what are some of the more common barriers that women face in leadership roles today? Like what you said, maybe trying to be vulnerable, and what strategies can be implemented to overcome them?
Well, I think the barriers that women face today are the barriers we've been facing for a while now. We continue to face barriers such as gender bias. We continue to face barriers where there's lack of representation in leadership roles. And, we continue to face that barrier where we got that work-life balance, And so we talk about things that could be overcome. And for me, organizations done set up training programs. They promote a lot of things. And so I think the thing that we can do to overcome it is quit the promotion and start being about what it is that you put in place. You've established policy, you have training. Okay, quit promoting it. Let's start living it. And I think as we are able to live what it is that we're preaching, now we can leverage that. We have organizations that have stood up to be support mechanisms for all of these types of biases that women face. Okay, organizations, what's our get well? Who are we healing? What are these numbers? So we got to get out of the habit of surface work. And I think if people truly live the policies that they have put in place, we can overcome a lot of things and just own the fact, hey, guys, you know what? We are biased. Let's quit acting like we're not. We're biased about a lot of things, unconscious or not. We have to address these different biases. If we address those issues, put a program in place, we add policies, we create organizations, we do all of those things. Okay, let's live them. Let's integrate them into our culture. Let's do our circle and do our feedback. Is it working? What can we do to adjust this? Just be true to all of the stuff that we have out here. And I think we can just overcome a lot of things. But as women, what do? We know there's a problem. We're resilient. We continue to push for and face the challenge as it comes. But the struggle shouldn't have to be continually as pushing against something all the time. Let's have a walk. Quit making us just push through everything. Be your word. And let's follow through on all of this stuff. And I think if we do that, we can mitigate a lot of things because we created the programs. Okay, let's put it into action.
It's a pet peeve of mine when a company will put a policy in place or put an SOP in place, and then it just sits there on a shelf. They don't actually do it. It's just there to be pretty.
Exactly. And you ask them, hey, what are the rules of engagement? Oh, what do you mean? Or if you come along and try to follow the policy, oh, well, we don't do that. Well, this is what's written. Let's follow what's written. And I think if people got into the habit of operating in the space of what has been written, then we can move somewhere. And if what is written needs to be modified, let's change it. Can we just quit the promotion and just start living and implementing the policies and the procedures and the training that's already been established? The recognition of the bias would be huge. recognizing you have a bias don't mean that you still can't work collectively together.
So how do you define authenticity in leadership, and what steps would you take to remain true to yourself while navigating the demands of your role?
For authenticity, that's about integrity, transparency, and it's really about staying aligned with your values and your goals. And so it involves being open about, whatever my strengths are, whatever my weaknesses are, and making those decisions that are ethically sound, that are rooted in policy, own it and stand behind those. And so I think if we just showed up as us every day, operated in our us every day, I think we would get away with all of this perceived imposter syndrome, or just, which is code for two-faced.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Yes.
phony, so we don't have to put a fancy word on it. Just show up real every day, because there's no need to be anything other than that. When folks are able to do that, now you're able to move forward, move the needle. You're able to inspire and empower others, because one, they see you operating in integrity all the time. They see you being transparent about what is going on, and they see that, hey, that's who she is. And I will tell you, as a former contracting officer in federal government, one of the great things about me just being who I am was that what a contractor could never do is go to another contractor and say, oh, and Miss Lori told me not to do this, and Miss Lori told me not to do that, especially if it wasn't outside of what is right or ethically sound. They always would fact check each other. They said, Miss Lori didn't tell you that, because again, they knew who I was. If you call my name, or if you tell someone that I'm going to be working on something, they didn't have to worry about it, because they knew I was going to show up in my truth. They knew I was going to do my absolute best. Because I always operate in excellence. So they knew what they were getting from me. And so when you show up your true, authentic self all the time, people are not surprised by your behavior, because they know who's going to show up. Now, if you do something contrary to what people know you to be, then, that raise an eyebrow, but they're just going to know, okay, she's going to come up here. I don't have to worry about that. And so for me, as to stay true to who I am, I'm going to do some reflection. I'm going to look at everything that I do to make sure that I'm operating from a good place, make sure that I'm not imposing my own biases in it, making sure that I'm being authentic. Also make sure I'm operating from a place of integrity or trustworthiness. But I'm also going to align myself with those kind of people. I love all of God's people. He knows that I do. But there's absolutely no need for me to go befriend a crook. Since I retired, man, I've heard a lot of stuff on these GovCon streets. And I'm like, oh, goodness, that's what we're selling out here. I have nothing against anyone, but we're not going to be doing tea together. You ain't going to be hanging out at my house, because we're from a different place. I don't believe in cheat codes. I don't believe in, cheating the system. I don't believe in that. I believe in you learning rules of engagements and let us operate in that. And so I think when people are authentic and trustworthy and transparent about who they are, and stick to that, and then routinely check yourself. I check myself, and then I surround myself around people who are, like me for the most part, but then also know when they could challenge me as well, in a way, whereas then we're trusting colleagues one to the other, and that's what we expect, because we're elevating one another when we do that. And so that's what I do to stay to navigate demands, reflect on who I am and what the decision I make, and then stay connected with people who are like-minded. That helps me stay grounded when I do that.
What advice would you give young women aspiring to be leaders today to prepare themselves for the challenges that they're going to face?
What I tell you, it is a continuous learning process. So you are going to be a perpetual learner. Never assume that I learned this thing, now I can come here and I'm done. Continuous learning in your career is key. Finding a mentor. We have to find and connect ourselves to people who are true mentors. A mentor is somebody other than that family friend or someone met along the way, who does not perpetuate your growth. A mentor should be able to aspire and elevate you to that next level. Also be mindful that there may be this one person that you hold in reverence that will be the mentor of the lifetime that you always go back to, just to wrap up and provide feedback. But along your journey, there will be people that will be placed in your path that their sole purpose is to get you to your next. You got to be mindful of that and connect with those people and allow them to mentor you. If mentors aren't calling your name or elevating your name or putting your name into the room where a sponsor can pick it up and lift it, Those people are not mentors. So we got to be mindful of that. And then they need to cultivate resilience. This journey is not going to be easy for anyone, let alone women. So what you want to do is just make sure you're staying true and you're understanding that. So leadership along this journey, it is going to require you to be self-aware. So you got to have self-awareness and you got to have adaptability, right? Knowing that going in, you still are going to be hit with some things. And guess what? It's okay, because you've already developed yourself for such a time as this. So I've already prepared myself, so I know how to handle that. I can move forward, be resilient, stay the course, because I've learned the things that I need to do in order to get through this challenge. And so constantly look for those opportunities that's going to grow and stretch your skills. As you go along your journey, don't become complacent. Again, I often tell people excellence is not a skill that you learn. It is an attitude. That's your state of mind, state of being. So you should always be operating from a place of excellence and build a network of mentors and peers that can provide you the guidance that you need. You're going to need support, a different person's perspective, somebody that you can pick up the phone and say, I need to pick your brain. And so that's what we need to be mindful of, so that throughout your career, be mindful that as you grow, there will be another mentor waiting to pick that baton up to push you even further. And then lastly, don't be afraid of setbacks or failures. Those are teachable moments. Those are going to be the things that are going to develop you quicker rather than later, that will make you stronger throughout your career. And confidence and a clear sense of purpose will help you navigate challenges with courage and clarity. So go out there, go forth and be great, and don't get distracted.
And those challenges are really what make you a really good leader, is your ability to go over past those challenges.
Absolutely.
Lori, is there anything else you would like to add?
And I have greatly appreciated the opportunity to come here and chat with you this morning. This has been really wonderful. I'm very excited about what you all are doing. Grateful for the recognition that you all are providing to women in leadership throughout the community and the industry and the marketplace collectively as a whole. And again, if I can be of service to anyone, don't hesitate to reach out and call.
Lori Smith, thank you for hopping on and speaking with us today.
Well, thank you so much, Mary Ann. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you're keeping up to date on the latest episodes, and learn more at govforum.io.